slice and dice some of the program in the midst of the program. So I don't know if this is big news, but it was big enough to post a story about it over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. And of course, those of you who are fans of not only our show, but also fans of what we do online are sure to have, at least at some point along the way, seen us post some stuff from ESPN. That's the nature of the beast. Most of the material that we put up is either ours originally or from, say, the ACC, but every once in a while, somebody on ESPN says something and we go, that might be worth people taking a look at. So we did put that article up today about a couple of ESPN analysts, and I'm going to let you hear the full audio, and then we'll have a great debate because it is certain that Joey Galloway does not buy in to your Clemson Tigers beating the Georgia Bulldogs. I feel like David Pollack also feels that way, although we didn't get 100% confirmation from Pollack. Pollack, obviously the former Georgia Bulldog, so we didn't get a the totality, I guess, from Pollack. He just sort of insinuated that he agreed. But do you agree? And again, this conversation about Georgia beating Clemson all came from the fact that if you followed this, there's conversation about whether or not Clemson will win 11 and a half games, more or less. I mean, that's kind of, that's the number that Vegas has out there. And we talked about this earlier this summer. If you believe they're going to beat Georgia, then you take the over. If you think they're going to lose to Georgia, you take the under. I mean, that's the nature of 11 and a half in a 12-game schedule if you're talking about the regular season. But here is that audio from ESPN yesterday as Joey Galloway and David Pollack were breaking down Clemson's schedule, and Joey Galloway said Clemson is going to lose to Georgia.
They're going to lose to Georgia. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bulldogs to win that game. So the number was 11 and a half.
That's right.
Then I'm going under.
Okay. I'm with them. I think it's a coin flip game. Both teams are really talented. Here's the thing. Here's what stinks about college football and what we're looking at. The rest of that schedule, I know what they're going to do. I mean, there is – I showed you Alabama's schedule. I'm like, hey, listen, at least,
right.
Ole Miss can score. LSU has talent.
And you're not pointing to North Carolina on that schedule, which –
it's not on there.
No, it isn't. So my question only, how happy – look at Clemson's talented team, but, UNC's – they're making some noise.
NC State might be the next toughest game for them, I think.
We keep waiting on Florida State to show up.
Yeah.
We keep waiting. Mike Norvell, maybe in his second season, might get something else out of him. They got to, be better at quarterback. And it's not Clemson's fault that the ACC is terrible, but that it is what it is. They have one game on their schedule that we look at to say this is the game they can lose, and I think they're going to lose it.
There you go. So clearly, Joey Galloway not buying into your Clemson Tigers. They only have one game on their schedule. And he said, of course, I think they're going to lose that one. That being the Georgia game. Now, do you buy into or believe, based off of what was said there, that David Pollack is already sort of giving his prediction a month in advance of Clemson and Georgia? And again, he is a former Georgia Bulldog. So, if he wants to go all Homer J. Simpson on this thing and pick the Bulldogs, I don't think I'm going to complain about it or say that that's some unusual prognostication from a Georgia Bulldog. But again, just kind of eyeballing this thing and thinking through it all, they are going to lose to Georgia, Galloway stated. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bulldogs to win that game. So the number was 11.5, then I'm going under. He then further solidifies it, saying it's not Clemson's fault that the ACC is terrible, but it is what it is. He said they have one game on their schedule that we looked at and said this is the game they can lose, and I think they're going to lose it. So again, the words from ESPN's Joey Galloway. Pollack's only real remark said, "I'm with him," after Galloway said he thought Clemson would lose. And he said, "I think it's a coin flip game. Both teams are really talented. Here's what stinks about college football. The rest of the schedule, I know what they're going to do." So did Pollack essentially say that he feels like Georgia's going to beat Clemson? Kind of insinuated it. And so, is that possible? Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a matchup of top 5 teams. Again, we don't know where these two teams are ranked, but if you follow any of the preseason predictions and projections on where Clemson and Georgia are going to be, I challenge you to find somebody that puts them in a situation where the thought process is that one of those two teams is not in the top 5 in the country. So, yes, it is a game that Georgia can win. Clemson currently favored. Last I checked was by 3.5. But do you like your early season projections at all? Well, not only is Clemson going to lose to Georgia, but the rest of their schedule's basically garbage, is what you heard from Joey Galloway. And by that fact alone, one would believe that even with a loss against Georgia, Clemson, given their resume, Clemson, given where they're going to begin the college football campaign, is probably going to be able to fight their way back into a top 4 spot. And that's the thing that I think so many people for years never understood about my arguments against preseason polls and the way they play out. Because the projections that we give today, the projections that we have about these teams, dictate in a lot of respect where you end up at the end of the year. If Clemson, and this is what I said when the Tigers were not a perennial top 5 team that was always at or near the top of the polls. I always saw it when Clemson was ranked 17th, when Clemson was outside the top 25. That no matter how good you did, in order to bounce back and fight back into the BCS, into the college football playoff, was extremely difficult. Because if you start the season, say, at 20 in your Clemson going into this game against Georgia, and you get beat by the Bulldogs, well, now you're dropping probably outside of the top 25. And if you win your next 11 games in the regular season, you might be fortunate to work your way back up into the top 4 of the college football playoff. But there are no guarantees on that front. And so, again, I just think that that's part of the issue, that the people out there who are more than willing to say, you know what, Swanee, I don't think we should have preseason polls. I am 100% for polls not coming out until October. And there are people amongst us who would say that.
Well, sir, while I may not agree with what you say, I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
And they have the right to say it. No doubt. But again, with Clemson now on upset alert, here on the upset alert edition, do you feel like you're missing something from the Georgia Bulldogs that is going to surprise you 1 month from today? What we know about Kirby Smart's group is that they have recruited at an elite level. The thing that we have to find out is, from their standpoint, as much as Clemson's standpoint, with the quarterback situation. I think Tiger fans really believe that DJ Uiagalelei is going to be a reflection of what you saw against Boston College and Notre Dame. The question becomes, is JT Daniels also legit? Most people believe he's the real deal. I don't think anybody's denying that fact. But it's a small sample size again for Daniels, slightly larger sample size than DJ. But remember, Daniels was beat out at quarterback at Southern Cal, was injured, and comes to Georgia. And then last season finally got an opportunity on the back end. He didn't play great against Cincinnati. And most people would argue that may have been one of the best teams that he had to face last year in their bowl matchup. But again, that's part of the maturation process for anybody playing college quarterback and getting your opportunity in a COVID-19 year where you're trying to come back off an injury and you just get a handful of games under your belt. And we still don't really know. And you still don't really know about DJ either. But the confidence in Tiger Town is pretty good, I think, surrounding DJ. And anytime you talk to him about what he learned, we sat down with him at the ACC kickoff and talked with him about what he learned from Trevor Lawrence. And obviously, Lawrence's influence on DJ is something that I think is hard to quantify. But I think that there was a patience that Trevor Lawrence had. I think there was a cerebral part of the game and film study and preparation and never being too high, never being too low, never talking too much, just kind of going about, business-like, if you will. And I think DJ either A, had those traits when he arrived at Clemson, probably some for sure, but B, absolutely has picked up some of those things just from being around Big Trev, the giant killer. The other question that really both of these two teams has, and maybe you feel more comfortable with Clemson and Jordan McFadden or Walker Parks or whoever ends up running out there at left tackle, but Georgia's still sort of working to solidify things at left tackle. Most people believe that Warren McClendon's going to hold down the fort on the right tackle spot for them. The interior line's got names like Jamare, whatever his name is, Sawyer. Remember the recruitment of Sawyer to Clemson a few years back? One of the best interior offensive linemen maybe in the country. Sawyer last year started much of the season at left tackle, but that's not where he's at his best. So again, the Bulldogs got some work to do on the offensive line. Clemson's offensive line a year ago wasn't great, but starting to come together, by the way, with an extra year under their belts. By the way, speaking of Clemson's offensive line, Taquan Johnson, the former defensive lineman who came over to the offensive side of the ball, announced yesterday on social media that he had a torn pec muscle and will be out for a while. That, to me, man, you talk about injuries that make your boy skin crawl. Achilles tear and torn pec, both of those seem terrible to me. What's not terrible to me, though, coming up on the program in just a little bit, our good buddy Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews will join us. Linda's in the house today hanging out. Hello, Linda. Kim's in the house. Kim, good to see you. Wendy's available. Kim says that he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes down to Joey Galloway. Did you think Pollack agreed with Galloway? Linda says yes, she agrees. She says, I just wish it wasn't our first game. She says, but yes, Pollack agreed with Galloway. I thought so too. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe Joey Galloway. Oh, Galloway. Galloway.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid? Why?
How about Pollack? I mean, sounded to me like Pollack was all in on the Dogs too. And again, he's a Georgia grad. We can allow that. But again, the people are all over Galloway. Pollack said, I agree. I'm with you, Linda. That's what I thought I heard. Todd